I learned the process of life early. You know, people and things are born and they live and they die and they get hurt in the middle. And it's just kind of a part of life when you grow up on a ranch. I think I got to a point where I had to sort of learn to take a break.
Yeah.
Because you get to that burnout moment and you're like, do I want to quit? No, I need to rest. The entire taking care of ourselves thing, I say you pay now or you pay later, right? You can pay the medical system all of the money you've ever made to take care of your health in about 3.5 years if you don't get it right now.
All right, welcome to the Biz Life Podcast. I am Donnie Bedore, your host. We're here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So I have a special guest here, Leslie Egy. Welcome to the Biz Life. Finally got you on.
Thanks, Donnie. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Find the place okay?
I did.
Yeah.
It's brightly colored. It sets apart.
It's definitely
great.
a unique studio.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with no further ado, I think that's how you say it.
It is.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get kicked off. So I always like to start off in the beginning. Tell us a little about yourself and, family, kids, life. Yeah. Where'd you come from?
Gotcha. Yeah, cool. So my name is Leslie Ygay. You said that. I am an entrepreneur and I'm an occupational therapist by trade. So I've lived in Fort Worth for almost 20 years now and been in business since 2011.
Okay.
Physical therapy and occupational therapy business.
Yeah.
So I'm from a small town in Oklahoma. I was a rancher's daughter.
Where
just
at
like
Oklahoma?
the song. Eastern Oklahoma.
Okay.
Muldrow is the town, and it's just across the border from Fort Smith, Arkansas. They say that's where all the outlaws went when they ran them out of town. So I think that probably is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a few fun facts about me. I have one son. I'm married. He's a hockey player. You know that. You've seen the pictures.
Your son.
Suffered through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I suffered through my presentations on that before. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well, I guess it's for being a hockey player, it's good to have a mom and dad that does physical therapy.
It has been invaluable to both him and his teammates.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kept us busy, especially as they got older and the game gets a little more intense.
What's the craziest injury you've had to deal with yourself?
Myself?
At the hockey games?
At the hockey game. Probably my own son's injury. He actually had a hip fracture.
Oh, my gosh. Really?
Yeah. So crazy injury, avulsion fracture where the bone was pulled away from the bone.
Holy crud.
And that happens when you're still growing at your growth plate. But, he healed up great, rehabbed it, and he's back to full speed and going great.
Back on the ice.
Yep.
Love it. Very cool. So you indicated that you have your own business, right? Occupational therapy. What's the name of the business?
Freedom Allied Consulting.
Yeah. I didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
I can do it, but sounds better when you say it.
A lot of people know it as Freedom Therapy, Freedom Physical Therapy, but Freedom Allied Consulting.
Now, was that your first business to go in 2011, or did you start somewhere else, or?
So, yes, that was the first business that I've owned.
Okay.
In 2011. So I did work as a therapist for a good number of years in various settings and made a ton of contacts and just had the crazy idea one day, like, hey, I want to do this for myself and not for other people.
That's cool. Well, this podcast is dedicated to the small entrepreneur, or I guess large entrepreneur, right? Someone that's in business looking to just find inspiration and, education, things like that. Maybe a little entertainment, who knows? But I always find it interesting why people do what they do, right? And why they technically like to start business, right? What was there a deciding factor that you were like, all right, I'm going to do this, and this is why?
There really was at the moment.
Okay.
When I was in corporate America and I was in management, and not to speak negatively of any of the folks I worked for or with, but I recall this particular year, 2010, I received my budget for the next year. Mm-hmm. And, you have certain goals as a manager you're expected to hit, that sort of thing with with what you're doing. And my team and I had the number one building in the nation. One of my buildings was number one. I had multiple for that company, but one of them was number one. And I remember reviewing the budget and it had gone up. And I'm like, I couldn't even do this if I was literally treating the patients. Like I couldn't hit the goals that they're asking my team to do.
Oh, wow.
And I think at that moment, it sort of hit me like, I've been doing this a while and I know a lot of people in this city that do therapy that probably would value me as a therapist. And I think I was like, I can't push my team to do something that's not realistic. And I know I can't be successful in this environment. So being young and crazy, I just went to like all these people that I knew at different home health agencies and developed contracts with them. And I was like, hey, I'm going to just contract out my time myself. Right. And that's how it started, I guess. And then I would have a friend here that would resign from a position and call me and be like, hey, aren't you doing something on your own? Like, do you need my help? And then I have another friend that would resign somewhere else and be like, hey, do you need a speech therapist? Because my job's not really working out. And it just kind of organically grew that way based on the relationships that I had. And that was the reason I started it, was what I felt like out of necessity.
Okay.
And also just being like, I can do this on my own. After that moment, I got that budget. I was like, I can do this on my own.
Right.
And now I kind of look at that and think the family I came from probably had a lot to do with the reason I thought that way. But at the time, that was not, I didn't like go into the minutia of like, I really want to do this and have a laid out plan and trajectory and an exit strategy. I didn't know any of that. I'm a science major, not a business major. But yeah, it worked.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And in 2011, whenever y'all started that, I guess it was your husband, he works with you as well too, right? Y'all, hand in hand together type of thing?
Yeah. So he always was a part of the business, but at the time, he's a PTA. He's a PT assistant.
Okay.
So I just had me, right? I didn't have an OT assistant. I didn't have a physical therapist to evaluate. I didn't have any of those things. So I really was just me contracting out my time.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't even 6 months later that one of our really close friends, that's one of my husband's mentors, resigned from their position and became our first physical therapist. And then my husband really started working for our business.
I gotcha.
Until then, he was helping me with payroll and doing all the things that he probably didn't prefer to do.
Right. Yeah. Every entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, at least my thinking in this, right? For those that have the ability to heal, I say heal, get them on the path of healing, right? I think it's a real special gift. I really do, right? And I'm definitely a man of faith, and I think that that's a gift from the Lord myself. When did you decide that this was the path you wanted to go, right? And tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah. So I grew up in a place where people got hurt often. And I say that like, we raised horses and cows and things. I say that I learned the process of life early. People and things are born and they live and they die and they get hurt in the middle. And it's just kind of a part of life when you grow up on a ranch.
Yeah, sure.
Right? From the time you're a baby, it's like you're not shielded from that process. So I did see a lot of injuries. My dad was a cowboy. All his friends were cowboys. Somebody was always hurt, right? And then I was with my grandparents a lot. And as they aged and just had natural process of aging issues, right? My grandmother was diabetic. She had trouble with mobility, just those kind of things. And I thought, wow, this is something that people will always need is someone to help them with these things.
Yeah.
And I would force my grandmother to play hospital, even though that was her least favorite game, because she was actually sick and had been in the hospital. And she's like, no, let's play anything besides hospital. And I'm like, no, but I'll be nice. I'll be your nurse and I'll help, And so anyway, that's kind of, I always had that, I guess, desire to help and heal. And I didn't really know that I had any kind of gift for that, but I do agree 100% with what you said with the healing. I think that is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. So when did you, so you were talking about college, when did you start the physical therapy, work, I guess, in your life?
Right. So when I went to college, I wanted to be a physical therapist, not an occupational therapist to begin with.
Okay.
And then they changed the coursework a little bit in physical therapy to make it longer. And I only had so many years on a scholarship. So I was, already, I guess, looking at the financial aspect of life like an entrepreneur does. And I'm like, okay, I don't really want to pay for another 7 or 8 months of school. I want to get out and get started, And so talked to my advisor, changed my major to OT. And so, that's a 6.5-year program.
Oh, wow.
Something like that, I think. Yeah, around that. So took me a while to get that done, but then, started practicing and so that's kind of,
So pretty much right after college or you're in college.
Right. Like, all I ever thought I would do was be a therapist, like in a hospital. Wow. Like when I came out of school, I didn't think, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to do all these things. Like I just thought I'm going to take over the world of occupational therapy. Like I want to be the greatest whatever and come up with all these theories and like do all this research and help the profession in all these ways.
Right.
And then it sort of just like changed completely from what I thought it would be, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
But
completely.
in a good way, in a good way. And I still have that hat, but I have others too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, you definitely wear multiple hats, right? And,
yes.
One thing that I see is that almost the same storyline for a lot of people I talk to, right? They're in this area of business, it could be painting, occupational therapy, just any kind of industry, right? And you're working for someone, you're like, you know what? Get to the point where I want to have a little bit more freedom, right? I want to be able to control this aspect of what I want to control. And so they jump to, being a business owner, right? And that's a big jump. And a lot of times, like you had said, whenever you start something, it may not end up being where you end up being at, right? Or the thing that you thought. To me, it's almost like a circular staircase, right? You definitely, you can only see a little bit ahead of you, but you really don't know what's at the top, right? I'll let you know when I get there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to know the view from the top. Thank you.
Yeah. I hadn't made it yet. We'll talk. We'll do another episode whenever either one of us get there first. But no, how has that dream, that vision? What's the maybe a couple things that have really been eye-opening for you? Right, something that you didn't expect from whenever you started. Let's just start going from whenever you started your business until now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's totally been such an evolution. I mean, I'm sure you've had similar experiences. Mm-hmm. When I started, I really didn't have anything to lose. That's one thing. You don't really have anything to lose. Like, well, if I can't do this, I can always go to work at a hospital. When you're in healthcare, I mean, if you fail, you always have a job, right?
It's true.
So that was kind of one of the things that I'm like, well, the worst I can do is be where I was, kind of thing.
I like that mindset.
Yeah. And so it really wasn't scary to me at all.
Okay.
At that moment.
Good.
So that was a great way to start.
Yeah.
And I developed this tool, it's just like an assessment tool, which doesn't seem that innovative now looking back at it, but it kind of got me in the door to the people that I already knew and gave me a little bit of rapport and like value. And they're like, wow, this is cool. This would really help us in our outcome measures and our this, that, and the, a few therapy things that won't make anybody happy for me to talk about them here, but
no problem.
It was just something I developed that was a little bit creative and out of the box. And they were like, oh, this is a great idea. Okay. And time goes on. We grow the business to, 25, 30 therapists, 35 therapists, maybe at one time.
Wow.
And then when it got to that size, I was kind of like, in the middle of it, then you think, wow, I have a lot to lose now because all these people depend on me. And, if we don't have work, they don't pay their more. You have that moment where it's like, oh, wow, look at all these things I have to do.
Yeah.
And and it was great. And, we had a great experience with that level of people working with us, but then it got to the point where I was not probably hiring enough help. I don't know if a lot of entrepreneurs probably say that. I was trying to do too much of the back office stuff on my own. And I think I sort of burned myself out, and I was like, I don't really want it to be this big anymore. This is not my vision.
Yeah.
And then I kind of kicked myself, and then I was like, no, this is really not what I want. This is not my vision.
Yeah.
And so I sort of shrank my team back down to the all-stars is really what I call it, my all-star team.
There you go.
That I have to manage very little. In fact, they kind of manage me sometimes, which I like that. And I've just been a lot happier since then and diversified my business a little bit. I did some consulting for another group. And, I've just kind of opened up my mind a little bit to other things, but using the same tools and using the same skills, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I like it. Yeah. And that's definitely an evolution, right? And I think, some people get to that. Some people, may not find that great success where the business grows. And then you're like, well, crap, do I really want to be here? Right. And then struggling with that. No, I get that. Right. Get that for sure.
It's funny if you don't, because I didn't really have that like target. Like when I started it, I didn't say, oh, this is where I want to end up. If I could go back in my own head, like when I started it and really maybe have a mentor or a consultant.
Yeah.
Like if you would have told me that back then, I'd be like, I can't afford a consultant. I can't even afford to stop working for 3 hours. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like that whole mentality of like, if I would have stopped and set up like what I actually wanted. You know what I mean?
No,
the target, the goal.
Yep.
The maturity, I think.
Yeah.
It's an evolution.
Yeah, no, it is, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that, though, to find someone in the business, right, that has gone through all that. Because now if there's another occupational therapist that comes in and it's like, I want to start my own business and meets you, you could say, you may, the very first time y'all meet, you may, hey, let's put some goals here and help reach those goals because this is what happened to me and this is what I did and everything. And who knows, maybe that person has a vision or a goal of having 500 employees. You never know, right?
Yes.
But no, I think that's a lot of value in that for sure.
Ready to boost your business's impact? Fully Promoted Fort Worth is your one-stop destination for branding needs, specializing in branded apparel and promotional products. They help attract, retain, and engage customers. From custom uniforms to eye-catching items, Fully Promoted Fort Worth has you covered. Contact them today to unlock your brand's potential. 817-803-4404. Fully Promoted, your success, their passion.
Yeah, and there are people who started when I started, and they're in multiple states, and they're doing all these things, and I'm super happy for them. And I literally think I'm so glad I'm not them.
Yeah.
So because it wasn't my goal to do that. And when you say that, people are like, "Oh, that's weird that you didn't want to grow." And I'm like, "Well, it's not that I didn't want to grow, but I didn't want to grow the way that they grew."
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean,
anyway.
multiple different paths, multiple different people.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think really what sets in my mind is, don't make all the mistakes yourself, learn from others.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right. And one thing that I'll let you speak on this as well too, is that, learning from others doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have that mentor that's been there, done that. I think we can learn from those that are on the same path as us at the same levels. And then we can also learn from those that are starting out, even though we've already started out prior to them. But what do you think on that?
Absolutely. I've learned a lot from being around business owners that were not in healthcare. I think, therapists hang out with therapists and firefighters hang out with firefighters. And, you just kind of are in those groups. And I think that it was valuable for me to be around other business owners and learn. Yeah. Because it's very similar, the process, but you don't think of it that way. Because you think when you're in healthcare or in the caring professions, like this is a totally different thing than real estate. This is a totally different thing than mixed martial arts or this, but it's not when it comes to the business part. And that's just me not being a business major and not knowing what I don't know and learning from people who do. Right.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's great. Yeah, I've always said that, it doesn't matter really if you're selling cars or bicycles or whatever, there's a lot of part of business that's very universal.
Yes.
Right. And so there's a lot of value in that. So for those that don't know, we actually met at the BNI, our BNI group, and you have since resigned. I'm very upset about that, by the way.
I'm sorry about that.
Very much so.
I appointed you and left.
I know, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, you want to do it? Yeah. Where'd she go? Yeah. But anyway, it's been really good. And no, I agree with you too. I mean, whenever you get yourself outside the box and hang out with other people in different industries, it really does make a huge difference, right? We can all learn from one another.
Right. And help one another.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those connections don't go away.
No.
When you've really worked through those connections don't go away if you keep them up, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Just like it's relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's relationships.
Most important thing.
Yeah. So looking back, right? You've been a business owner now for 13 years-ish, right?
Lucky 13.
Right. Yeah. What is the biggest challenge you've ran into?
That's an interesting question. There's a lot of different directions I guess you could go with that. I think that probably one of the challenges is being sort of just me. That's been a little bit of a challenge.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
I mean, you don't, when it's not like a co-ownership or, multiple people sharing the burden. And I don't just mean of the work, but of the financial burden.
Okay.
So, having to kind of shoulder that, I think maybe I didn't quite, I don't know that anyone knows how that's going to be in the long run.
Sure.
I wouldn't change it necessarily, but that's probably something that I would not have anticipated.
Yeah.
That and just taking a break.
That?
Taking a break.
Not a physical break.
Yeah, no. Well, if you did that, I could help you with that too. But, I think growing up the way I grew up in a ranching family and, around people that just didn't stop, you're up at 5 a.m. It was taboo to stop. And I think I got to a point where I had to sort of learn to take a break.
Yeah.
Because you get to that burnout moment and you're like, do I want to quit? No, I need to rest. When you feel like you want to quit, you don't need to quit. You just need to rest.
Yeah. That's
a very valuable thing I've learned that I guess I thought I was mentally and physically tough enough to not need to do that.
Yeah.
But time and perseverance and whatever has taught me you need a break. I teach that to people as a therapist.
Right.
But I'm not that great at doing it. But I have learned to do a little better, I think, with that.
Yeah. So twofold, I guess. What signs do you see in yourself that's like, hey, I need a break? And then what does a break look like for you?
Yeah, I think the main sign that I see is a decrease of just not effectiveness necessarily, but productivity. I will spend time on a task for longer than it should take me to do.
Okay.
I will have to reread things that I shouldn't. Yeah. It will take me longer to process something. If I'm creating an Excel spreadsheet, it will take me twice as long as it should. There are signs objectively that I find with myself that tell me you need a day off or you need like a few hours to just go out and whatever. So that leads me to your next part of the next part of your question is I think being outdoors is a real powerful way for me to reconnect. Whether that's a jog or a walk with my dog, just being outside. Is good.
I'm definitely an outdoorsy type of person, right? That's my unplug. Go to the mountains, go somewhere, go fishing, something, right?
Yes.
Get out of Dodge, right?
Yeah, and preferably if you could get, I love my home, but if you can get away from that context or that environment, because if you're in that context, it's hard to take a break from that. Because when you're an entrepreneur and they're like, oh, well, don't have your office in your house. Well, even if you don't have your office in your house, you still do work in your house as an entrepreneur. I'd like to meet an entrepreneur who doesn't do, it doesn't happen.
True.
So if you can go away, it's sort of just, it's like shifting the gear in your mind to relax.
Yeah.
And resting and being on sleep hygiene is a big deal for me. I have a process of when I go in, I wash my face, I do all the things that research says that helps you sleep. And guess what? It does.
Yep.
And you meditate, you pray, you do all the things the same way. And it really helps you rest better. There's resting and there's quality rest. And I think as an entrepreneur, to shut your mind off, you really have to go through some processes to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, we definitely neglect, I think, ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. As we move on closer on the second half of this, let's talk about the connectivity between our physical health and our mental health, right? I'm obviously, in the physical world through martial arts and have been for many, many years. So I find a lot of benefits to having time that I spend on myself. What I love about jiu-jitsu mainly is that, yes, it's physical, but it's so mental as well too. So there's a lot of mental workout that I'm doing while I'm training, and it's not just lifting weights in a mind-numbing situation. So what have you found, because I'm sure you've researched a lot between the physical and the mental state of us?
Oh, yeah. You can't extrapolate one from the other.
Yeah.
And I know, like, when I was young, my grandfather would always have some kind of advice for me. And he, I loved that. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, what is he going to tell me to do today? And like, as you age, you have all this knowledge. And as a therapist, I feel almost like I can meet somebody and immediately start giving them like a repertoire of things that they need to do to like improve their life right now. Like, I can solve like 85% of your problems. Like, just follow these steps.
Yeah.
But that's not the way that it works. Right? It's not the way that it works. The mental controls everything, right? From the sleep to your hydration to your food, stress level, right? And sometimes you just have to get out of your own head and get moving because it's so connected. It's so connected.
Yeah.
Right? It's all so connected. But no, I totally have learned just, and sometimes people just need to hear that.
Yeah.
One of the first things I do on my evaluations is like, okay, so let me go back as what we've looked at so far. You have 5 hours of sleep a night. You eat mainly burgers from Whataburger and 3 sodas a day. You drink a half a liter of water, and you wonder why you're feeling bad. And I kind of have to be the bad guy in that.
Yeah.
Because repeating that back to someone is sometimes powerful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not their wife. I'm not their daughter. I'm not their doctor. I'm like this other person that is coming to see them and happy to see them and build a little rapport. And then you literally just repeat it back to someone and they're like, yeah, I can see how that is not working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you're going through that evaluation with someone, right, what are some key things, and you sort of alluded to one there, but what are some key factors that you're really looking for, right? And what's a common thread that you see in most people?
Yeah, it is kind of the American condition to not take care of ourselves. And I feel like it's an epidemic, right? It's bigger than we know. It's bigger than we think. Like the entire taking care of ourselves thing. I say you pay now or you pay later, right? You can pay the medical system all of the money you've ever made to take care of your health in about 3.5 years if you don't get it right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and a lot of the problems that people have, whether it be mobility issues, high blood pressure, diabetes and elevated blood sugars, a lot of those things can be healed or remediated or turned back. Chronic conditions can be absolutely healed a lot of times. I'm just going to put it out there by exercise, but the key, and you probably see this, Donnie, is not giving someone just rote exercises that don't mean anything to them. It has to be a meaningful activity.
Yep.
Right? I mean, there is definitely value in lifting weights, in stretching,
sure,
in all of those things. But when you go and you see your folks that do martial arts, that's meaningful to them.
Yeah.
And that's why they've stuck with it. There's some kind of meaning to them, and they've gleaned some kind of health benefits, mental benefits, physical benefits, emotional benefits.
Yeah.
They feel more powerful. They feel more in control of their body and their life, right? And you got to find that whatever it is that does it.
Right.
Right. And so we can lead the horse to water. And then I will say things like, what do you enjoy to do? What are the things you enjoy to do? And a lot of times by the time I see someone, they'll say, well, I don't really do much anymore. You know, I watch this program on TV, or I do this, or I do that. And I walk to the mailbox, and I maybe take my dog. I mean, I'm not trying to be depressive, but this is like a lot of what I see.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
And so I have to say, well, what did you like to do before you were debilitated?
Yeah.
Or before your heart problem, or before you became morbidly obese? Like, what did you do before that?
Right.
And they'll be like, well, I was a football player and I love to play tennis. And I'm like, okay. So then we work together to come up with some components of those activities and enable that person to somehow feel like you are still that person, you know?
Yeah.
And give them that value back and that control back.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it's not, I don't think anybody really believes that the doctors have all the answers.
No, that's why they call it practice.
Right. Right. I mean, like, they're going to give you a pill for everything.
Yeah.
And then you have no control of anything. And I'm not saying don't take your medicine. That is not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the more debilitated a person gets, the more they rely on synthetic things to make themselves feel better. And I've said this before in my presentations, is your body is a system that wants to heal itself.
Yeah.
It wants to heal. It wants to heal. You just have to give it the pathways and the tools to do that.
That's good.
It's a powerful thing. Your body wants to heal itself.
Yeah.
That's what it wants to do.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Right. And no, I'm definitely 100% on board with everything you've said. So let's talk, again, those that are watching, you know, they may be a little bit overweight. They may, you know, they're stressed out on their business. They're trying to make payroll, you know, all those things that we know comes along with, you know, living the biz life. Right. And obviously they've probably neglected themselves. What's some low hanging fruit for that entrepreneur? Maybe 3 things that you could say, hey, do this, this, and this. It won't get you all the way there, but it's going to really get you on a good pathway to seeing a better you.
Absolutely. 3 things, and this is off the cuff, okay? But I think an easy thing to do is increase your water intake. Unless you're a congestive heart failure patient, don't do that. If you're on a fluid restriction, please do not go against your doctor's orders, okay?
Do you have a recommendation on increasing it, right? Like your weight, that's how many ounces?
Yeah.
What's a good rule of thumb?
Right. I mean, you could say, you know, the old rule of thumb is 8 cups of water a day, you know, so 8 to 10 ounces 8 times a day. So 64 ounces of water. That's
Perfect.
Not a lot, you know, in the grand scheme of things. And you can put it in a couple of times. Just take your water with you, right? That's one thing you can do that's easy.
Yep.
That decreases it decreases your hunger. It improves all your body functions, and you'll just feel better.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing is give yourself 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day to walk. 10 minutes a day to stretch, 10 minutes a day to lift some dumbbells. Just start with like a small chunk of time and do something.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is you want to do, it's almost better to give somebody a little bit of leadway. Like if they don't think they can walk because they have a bad knee, people have a lot of excuses. People have a lot, you know.
Oh, yeah.
They have, if I say go for a walk, they're going to go, I don't think I can do that. I got this hip, you know, okay, well then stretch.
Yeah.
Like get up and stretch. Move your arms around in a circle.
Yeah.
Do the stretches you learned in PE when you were 10 years old. Like literally.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not rocket science.
No, true story.
You know, so that's 2. Let's see on the 3rd. And I honestly believe like just being on a better routine. One of the things I work with, especially my older folks on that maybe are either disabled and unable to work, so they're out of that routine, is to set yourself up a routine. Like go to bed at a certain time and get up at a certain time. And I don't mean go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. You don't have to do that. But just if you're going to go to bed at 11 or 11:30, go to bed at 11 or 11:30 and get 7-8 hours of sleep and wake up and set your alarm and wake up.
Yeah.
And then drink your water and do your 10 minutes or whatever, however you want to do that.
Yep.
Routine is so crucial. And when we lose that, everything goes south.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree 1,000% on those. Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's simple, very basic.
Yep. And some may be watching, they're like, well, duh.
Yeah.
But
duh.
how is that working for you? Right? Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Right? Let us know what your routine is, on these three aspects, water, having some kind of activity, and then also your routine, right? Let us know what you're doing, what's working for you. And if it's not working for you, then it sounds like you need to do it.
And I mean, ask yourself when you say, well, duh, like, am I doing this though? Mm-hmm. Am I actually doing this? Because the 10-minute thing is that's the very beginning. Like,
that's
I would love for you to do 30 or 40 minutes of something.
Sure.
But, 10 minutes, guys, you can do it.
Yeah. Easy.
And I challenge you for 10 days. See a huge difference.
Yep. 10 minutes, 10 days. I like it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're getting close to the end of the podcast. So let's do this. Let's shift into what's something that someone doesn't know about you, right? Because usually those that are listening this far is usually, it's going to be my wife or your husband, right? And some friends, right? What is something that no one knows about you?
Yeah. So, one thing I think that people don't know about me is that I've basically worked since single digits, and it's not that I was forced to do that. I wanted to do that. Like I was always, as soon as I was old enough to even think about getting a job, I was like, Mom, can I work at the snow cone stand? I'm in 6th grade. And she's like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, because I want to make money, because I want to go buy those jeans I want, because there's certain things that my family would just be like, no, we're not buying that for you. Right. Even if we had the money, no, you're not getting that. Yeah. Which I appreciate that now.
Oh, sure.
Right. But they taught me in that way to work for what I wanted. And cool. I have done some crazy jobs. I worked at the snow cone stand. I was an umpire. In fact, I got out of a ticket one time because the guy pulling me over thought I was a police officer, and I didn't correct him because I was in my umpire uniform. And I was in my purple Camaro speeding, trying to get to the ball game I was trying to call. And he's like, oh, Fort Smith PD? And I'm like, I didn't say yes or no. He just assumed. And I'm like, okay. So I got out of that ticket. One of the funniest jobs I had, I worked for a guy that my mom got me this gig, and he was an entrepreneur, owned a bunch of pharmacies, and he also had a smoke shop. He had a warehouse where he did auctions. And one of the things he had in the warehouse was a discount funeral home.
Oh, wow.
So I did just all the weird stuff that this guy, I'd take his mail, I'd do whatever. And then on certain days of the week, and this is a little weird and morbid, but they did the cremations. I don't even think that's the right way to say it. But I would have to take these cremations to the U.S. Post Office and mail them to the families. So I'd literally be standing in line with Ms. Jones and Mr. Smith in my hand, in these boxes, and I'm just like, oh God, please don't let me drop these. Please, Lord, do not let me drop these, because that would be terrible, dropping somebody's ashes in the post office. I've had some weird jobs, but that was probably the weirdest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so crazy.
So crazy.
Oh my gosh. All right. So let's do this. I want to give a plug for your business, right? So if, let's say, again, someone is in the DFW area, right? I guess I'm not sure what's your territory that y'all cover?
Yeah, so we cover Fort Worth, Arlington. I have some coverages in Dallas as well. So It just depends on, what someone needs and where they are. And we kind of go by the case of who we can get over there. So,
Perfect. So let's, tell the audience, again, how they can get a hold of you and, the type of services that you provide and go from there.
Yeah. So we provide physical and occupational therapy services, and it's Freedom Allied Consulting. The way that we would prefer for you to get a hold of us, because it is medical information, is to email me at leslieHowellOTR@att.net. And then we can go from there.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Well, I stand by your services. I know you've helped out some of our friends and clients as well too, in a rough sport of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yes.
And they're back at it and doing very, very well. And so speak highly of your services. So definitely you come highly recommended.
Thank
so
you.
if anybody is, again, having any kind of ailments or whatever, please reach out. And she's amazing. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
well, thanks for joining us on the Biz Life.
Yes, it's been fun. I loved it. It flew by.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, we are finished here. Thank y'all for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share out, all those things. Helps the channel grow. And we'll see you next week on the Biz Life.